Welcome back to another dark chapter from the wasteland. Today's story takes us deep into one of the Institute's most disturbing operations, a program that turns human consciousness into currency and replaces people with perfect synthetic copies. Let us begin this confession from the depths of the Commonwealth. They took my memories while I was still conscious. 17 hours strapped to a surgical chair in a white room so clean it hurt to look at, and I felt every single memory being pulled from my skull like threads being yanked from cloth. My name is Jackson Finch. I was a traitor, a father, a human being. Now I am something else entirely, and the worst part is that somewhere in the Institute, a perfect copy of me is living my life using my own stolen memories. I need you to understand something before I go any further. This is not just my story. This is happening to hundreds, maybe thousands of Commonwealth citizens. The Institute is not just replacing people with synths. They are building the most complete library of human consciousness ever created, and we are the books they keep burning after they finish reading. It started on a normal trading run to Bunker Hill in the year 2285. I had been making that route for nearly 20 years, knew every raider camp to avoid, every shortcut through the rubble. I carried fabrics that day, salvaged pre-war clothing that settlers would pay good caps for. The sun was setting over the ruins when I felt the strange, prickling sensation on my neck, like someone was watching. Then nothing, just darkness and the taste of metal. When I woke up, I was not in Bunker Hill. I was in a room so bright and sterile it seemed to exist outside of the world I knew. White walls, white floors, white ceiling with lights that never flickered. No rust, no radiation stains, no Commonwealth dirt, just perfect, terrifying cleanliness. My body would not move. I tried to scream, but my jaw was locked, tried to thrash, but my muscles refused every command. Only my eyes worked, darting frantically around the room. 3 scientists in pristine white coats entered. They spoke about me like I was a piece of machinery. The woman with dark hair pulled up a chair, sat directly in my line of sight, and smiled. It was not a cruel smile. That somehow made it worse. She said, "Subject designation 7834, Commonwealth trader, male, approximately 40 years old. Hippocampus shows excellent preservation. Commence extraction of experiential data." I felt needles enter my skull. Not piercing bone, something worse. They slid in at the base of my neck, behind my ears, at my temples, cold metal burrowing into my brain like worms. Then the sensation started. Imagine someone taking every moment of your life and playing it backwards at high speed. My daughter's 16th birthday party, the day my wife died screaming as raiders burned our first settlement, learning to shoot my first rifle, my own, father teaching me trade routes, the smell of my mother's cooking. My wedding day, every kiss, every fight, every quiet moment staring at the stars, wondering if the world would ever heal. They took all of it, but here is what you do not understand yet. They did not just take the memories, they took the emotions attached to them. The grief I felt burying my wife, the pride when my daughter spoke her first words, the shame of the time I cheated a desperate farmer for extra caps, every feeling, every sensation, the taste of Brahmin steak, the feeling of rain on skin, the ache in my knees from 20 years of walking Commonwealth roads. All of it copied, cataloged, filed away like inventory in a warehouse. The scientist, Dr. Loken she called herself, explained while the extraction continued. "We need authentic behavioral patterns for our infiltrator units. The Commonwealth is becoming too suspicious. Our earlier replacements were too perfect, too clean. They need flaws. They need your hesitations, your quirks, your irrational attachments. They need to be you, Mr. Finch. In every way that matters." I watched my life play out on monitors surrounding the chair. 6 screens showing different memories simultaneously. Me haggling prices at Diamond City Market. Me singing my daughter to sleep. Me killing my first raider at age 15. Me crying alone in an abandoned building 3 days after my wife's funeral. Every private moment, every secret shame, every joy I thought was mine alone. All of it displayed for these strangers to study and discuss like they were reviewing trading manifests. The extraction took 17 hours. I know, because Dr. Loken kept announcing time markers. Hour 4, frontal lobe data extraction at 67%. Hour 9, accessing long-term memory storage in the hippocampus. Hour 13, emotional memory integration successful. Every announcement was another piece of myself being torn away and stored in their machines. Around hour 11, they showed me something that broke whatever part of my mind was still holding together. Through a glass wall, I saw another room. In that room stood a man who looked exactly like me. Same scars on my hands from years of rope burns, same crooked nose from a bar fight in my 20s, same tired eyes. But this was not a mirror. This was my replacement, and he was practicing being me. He walked like me, that slight limp from an old leg injury. He tilted his head the same way I did when I was thinking. He even scratched his beard in the exact pattern I had done unconsciously for decades. The scientists were feeding him my memories in real time, teaching him to be Jackson Finch while the real Jackson Finch watched, paralyzed, and helpless. I heard one scientist say to another, "The behavioral integration is remarkable. He already has the subject's trading mannerisms down. Watch how he evaluates value. That quick eye movement pattern. Perfect mimicry." The synth version of me was studying a piece of cloth, running his thumb over it exactly how I would check fabric quality. But he had only existed for hours. He knew how to do this because my brain was telling their computers how to program him. Then, Dr. Loken leaned close to my face and said something that still echoes in my mind. Phase 2, FEV injection for biological disposal. We have what we need from the organic model. Time to test whether supermutant transformation affects memory encoding. This is valuable data. They wanted my memories, but considered my body genetic waste. I was going to become one of those green monsters that terrorize the Commonwealth, all so they could study what happened to memories during mutation. They wheeled in equipment, large vats of sickly green liquid, more needles. A scientist adjusted something on a machine and announced, "FIEV Variant Institute Strain 007 prepared for injection. Subject will be monitored during transformation, then released to surface for behavioral observation." Released. They were going to turn me into a monster and set me loose like all the other super mutants plaguing the Commonwealth. The FEV entered my bloodstream like liquid fire. I felt my body begin to change even as my mind started to fragment. Bones extending, muscles tearing and reforming, skin stretching and changing color. But worse than the physical agony was feeling my memories starting to dissolve. The very thoughts they had just copied were being erased by the virus they injected. My daughter's name started to slip away. My wife's face became blurry. I was losing myself while knowing a copy existed somewhere, pristine and perfect in a machine. But something unexpected happened around hour 14 of my mutation. The restraints meant for a normal human body could not hold what I was becoming. My new strength, the unnatural power of a super mutant, snapped the surgical chair's bonds like they were made of rotted rope. I was still transforming, still losing my human mind, but some deep instinct for survival took over. I remember roaring, the sound barely human and smashing through equipment. Alarms blared. Synthetic voices announced biohazard protocols. Heavy doors started to seal. But I was already moving, my changing body operating on pure rage and fear. I found maintenance tunnels, places too small for the security synths in their armor. I crawled, I ran, I fled deeper into the Institute's underground maze, even as my mind continued to break apart. In those tunnels, I found evidence of what they had really been doing. Terminals with file after file of memory bank designations, numbers reaching into the thousands. Each one was a person like me, someone who had their entire life extracted and stored. But the files showed something even more horrifying. The Institute was not just using these memories for individual synth replacements, they were creating composite personalities. One terminal entry explained their distributed consciousness project. They would take memories from dozens of people and blend them into single synth units. A synth infiltrator might have my trading skills, another person's mechanical knowledge, a third person's combat experience, all merged into one synthetic being with no single original identity. We were not being replaced. We were being harvested and remixed. Another file detailed their predictive modeling. They had extracted memories from every major settlement leader in the Commonwealth over the past 50 years. Using this data, they could predict how settlements would respond to threats, what trade routes would develop, which leaders would cooperate or resist. They had mapped the entire social structure of the Commonwealth by stealing our thoughts. I found memory categories I could barely comprehend: pre-war knowledge extraction, vault dweller psychological profiles, ghoul long-term memory studies spanning centuries. The Institute was collecting not just current memories, but any link to the old world, every person who had seen life before the bombs, every vault dweller with technical knowledge, every ghoul who remembered civilization, all being systematically harvested. But the worst discovery was in a file marked secondary applications. The Institute was trading memories. Actual memories extracted from Commonwealth citizens were being exchanged with other organizations for technology and resources. My memories, my life, was now currency in transactions I would never understand. If you are still with me after hearing this, hit that like and subscribe button, because what I am about to tell you next shows how deep this violation truly goes. The memory trading files showed transactions dating back years. High-value pre-war technical knowledge exchange for military-grade plasma rifle schematics. Composite personality data from 47 subjects trade for advanced materials fabrication technology. They were selling pieces of people's souls to whoever would pay the right price. I stumbled through those maintenance tunnels for what felt like days, my transformation nearly complete. My human thoughts were dissolving like sugar in water, replaced by the simple rage and hunger that drive super mutants. But one thing kept burning in what remained of my mind. My daughter. Her name was Sarah Finch. I repeated it over and over, terrified I would forget, even as the virus tried to erase it. In my fragmenting consciousness, I remembered seeing a file about synth children. The Institute was using extracted memories to educate their child units. My childhood, the games my mother taught me, the lessons my father gave me about honest trading, all of it was now teaching material for synthetic children who would never know the real people those memories came from. My life had become a textbook. I found an exit eventually, a waste disposal system that led to the surface. I crawled through pipes that reeked of chemicals and biological refuse, emerged somewhere in the Commonwealth I did not recognize. By then, I was more super mutant than human. Green skin, massive frame, strength that could bend steel. But, unlike most of my kind, I kept fragments of memory. Enough to know what had been done to me, enough to remember that I had a daughter somewhere who thought her father had simply disappeared on a trading run. The first few weeks on the surface were chaos. The super mutant instincts screamed at me to hunt, to kill, to destroy, but those fragments of Jackson Finch fought back. I avoided settlements. I hid in ruins. I taught myself to think through the rage, to hold on to whatever scraps of humanity the Eve had not burned away. During those weeks, I encountered other super mutants. Most were mindless, operating on pure aggression, but occasionally I met one who paused before attacking, who seemed to struggle with something internal. I started to understand. We were all someone before the Institute made us into monsters. Every super mutant in the Commonwealth was a person who got kidnapped, experimented on, and discarded. I met one named Strong later. He talked more than the others, even quoted some pre-war play about humans and monsters. I wondered what he had been before. A teacher maybe? Someone educated enough to remember Shakespeare or similar works even through the fog of mutation? The Institute had stolen his identity just like they stole mine, left him with just enough memory to be aware of his own tragedy. But I needed to know what happened after my extraction. I needed to see what became of my life. So I started the dangerous journey back toward Bunker Hill, back toward my daughter. I traveled at night, avoided main roads, stayed away from settlements that would shoot a super mutant on sight. It took months. By then, the year was 2286. I had been gone nearly a year. Bunker Hill looked the same makeshift walls, same traders setting up their stalls. I watched from the ruins across the street, hidden in shadows, and then I saw him, me, the synth replacement walking around Bunker Hill like he owned the place, greeting other traders by name, laughing at jokes, inspecting merchandise with my exact mannerisms. He was perfect, too perfect. He never got tired the way I used to after a long trading day. Never rubbed his bad knee when the weather changed, never paused to remember his dead wife with that particular look of grief I had carried for years. He was me without the pain, me without the years of wasteland wear, me as I might have been if life had been kinder. But what destroyed me was seeing him with Sarah. My daughter met him outside the Bunker Hill walls. She ran to him, hugged him, talked excitedly about some salvage she had found, and he responded with perfect paternal affection. He knew exactly what to say, exactly how to tousle her hair, exactly when to laugh at her jokes, because he had my memories of raising her. Every bedtime story, every life lesson, every private joke between father and daughter. He loved her using my love, but was it real love or just programming executing based on extracted emotional data? I watched him look at her with what seemed like genuine affection, the same way I had looked at her for 16 years. The Institute had not just replaced me. They had given my relationship with my daughter to a machine, and the machine was doing a better job of being her father than I ever could now. What father wants to show his daughter that he has become a monster? I wanted to reveal myself, to tell Sarah the truth, but what would that accomplish? Her real father was a hulking green mutant who could barely form coherent sentences. Her synth father was everything I had been, everything she needed, without the risk of getting killed on a trading run gone wrong. The Institute had improved on Jackson Finch by removing all his flaws and vulnerabilities. That night, I broke into the Institute's data storage facility through an old access tunnel I had discovered during my escape. Getting in was easier than it should have been. They never expected a super mutant to remember where the maintenance entrances were located. Inside, I accessed terminals, searching for my designation. Memory bank 7834. What I found made me understand the true scope of their operation. My memories had already been distributed across multiple platforms. Part of my personality went into a synth infiltrator designated K7-29, deployed to Diamond City to monitor the mayor. My trading knowledge was uploaded to L3-14, working undercover in Good Neighbors Market. My combat skills from years of defending against raiders went to a courser unit, one of their elite hunters. But the file that shattered me was marked genetic material secondary usage. They had not just extracted my memories, they had kept tissue samples, genetic data, everything needed to potentially create more copies of me. The Institute could theoretically make a dozen Jackson Finches if they wanted, each one programmed with different aspects of my personality, each one believing they were the real me. Then, I found my father's file. Memory Bank 3291, Richard Finch, Commonwealth Trader, extracted 2,266, FEV disposal 2,267. My father, who had died of radiation sickness when I was 19, except he had not died of radiation sickness. The Institute had taken him, extracted his memories, turned him into a super mutant, and released him. The man who raised me, who taught me everything I knew about trading, had been replaced by a synth 20 years ago. I checked the deployment records. Synth designation Vi-9-43, programmed with Richard Finch's memories, assigned to Diamond City Market District. That synth had lived among us for 2 decades, It had helped me start my own trading business. It had been at my wedding. It had held my daughter when she was born. And I never knew, none of us knew, how many people in the Commonwealth were synths. How many of our friends, our family members, our leaders had been quietly replaced over the years. The Institute had been running this program since at least the early 2200s. 50 years of systematic replacement meant hundreds, maybe thousands of people were not who they appeared to be. I found evidence of the broken mask incident in 2229, a synth called Mr. Carter who malfunctioned and went on a killing spree in Diamond City. The file notes indicated it was a prototype test done without proper authorization. But what struck me was the aftermath report. The incident had made the Commonwealth paranoid about synths, which actually helped the Institute. People became suspicious of obvious synthetic behavior, so the Institute responded by making their replacements more flawed, more human, harder to detect. My existence, my extraction, the decision to give my replacement all my quirks and imperfections, that was a direct response to the broken mask incident. They learned that perfect synths were too noticeable, so they started making synths with bad knees, with grief, with irrational fears and stupid jokes. They made them human by stealing humanity from actual humans. The memory trading files went deeper than I initially thought. The Institute had arrangements with organizations I had never heard of. The Enclave Remnants, something called the Brotherhood of Steel, various vault tech facilities that were still operational. They were all trading memories like they were ammunition or scrap metal. One entry detailed a transaction from 2283, 300 pre-war memory extractions from Vault 81 survivors traded to Enclave Remnants for Vertibird technology schematics. 300 people, their entire pre-war lives sold to the Enclave. What did they do with those memories? Were they creating their own synths, running psychological experiments, building databases of lost knowledge? Another file marked high-value assets listed people the Institute specifically wanted to extract: scientists with technical knowledge, military personnel with tactical training, vault dwellers with intact DNA and pre-war memories, anyone who represented knowledge or capability worth stealing. There was a note in my file. Subject 7834 shows extensive Commonwealth geographical knowledge and established trade networks. Priority: extraction for infiltration asset development. They took me because I was useful, because 40 years of learning every road, every settlement, every dangerous zone in the Commonwealth made me valuable data. My life's work, my hard-earned survival skills, all extracted in 17 hours and distributed to synths who would use that knowledge to infiltrate and control the very settlements I had spent decades building relationships with. I discovered files about the Composite Personality Project that I had glimpsed during my escape. The Institute was creating synths with blended memories from multiple sources. A spy unit might have one person's social skills, another's technical knowledge, a third's combat training, all merged into a single personality matrix. These composite synths had no original identity. They were Frankenstein's monsters built from stolen pieces of dozens of people's lives. One terminal showed the success rates of these composites: 87% integration for standard infiltrator units, 93% for specialized operatives. The numbers were clinical, detached, but each percentage represented someone's stolen memories being successfully welded onto someone else's stolen skills. We were being torn apart and reassembled like salvaged machinery. But the file that made me want to burn the entire Institute to ash was labeled Memory Market Historical Transactions. Years of trading, memories sold to the highest bidder, child developmental psychology data from Vault 66 survivors exchange for advanced hydroponics technology, combat trauma memories from ex-military personnel, trade for weapons manufacturing equipment. Ghoul, long-term memory studies spanning 170 years, exchange for anti-radiation pharmaceuticals. They were selling trauma, selling childhood memories, selling centuries of lived experience from ghouls who had survived the war and everything after. every horrible thing people had endured, every precious moment they had cherished, all converted into currency for the Institute's never-ending pursuit of technological advancement. I found a manifest showing that some memories were classified as educational material for synth development programs. My childhood was probably being used right now to teach a synth child how human children behave. Some other person's memories of learning to read were teaching synths literacy. A teacher's memories of classroom management were programming synth educators. We were not just being replaced. Our entire lived experiences were being strip-mined for parts. If this story has kept you listening this far and you want more of these dark confessions from the wasteland, hit that like button. It really motivates me to create similar Fallout lores because what I discovered next shows that the Institute's plans go far beyond simple replacement. In the deepest levels of the Institute's data archive, I found something they called Project Permanence. The file encryption was beyond anything I could break, but the abstract was visible. Long-term goal: complete digitization of Commonwealth consciousness. Estimated timeline 50 years. Estimated subject requirement 15,000 extractions. Purpose: creation of predictive social modeling accurate to 99.7%. They were not just replacing people, they were building a god-level understanding of human behavior by stealing the minds of an entire population. 15,000 people, 15,000 lives extracted, cataloged, and fed into computers that would predict every possible human response to every possible situation. The Institute would not need to control the Commonwealth through force. They would control it by knowing exactly what every person would do before they did it. I found deployment schedules showing synth replacements planned years in advance. 2,290, replace Diamond City Security Chief. 2,292, replace Good Neighbors Mayor. 2,295, replace Brotherhood of Steel Local Commander. They were playing a decades-long chess game, positioning their pieces in every position of power, waiting for the moment when they controlled every major decision-maker in the Commonwealth. But what chilled me was seeing the contingency files, plans for what they called catastrophic consciousness failure. If a synth replacement was discovered or malfunctioned, the Institute had protocols to extract and eliminate everyone who knew the truth, then replace them as well. Entire settlements could be wiped and replaced if they became too aware of the infiltration. Nobody would even know it happened. One day, you are living among your neighbors. The next day, half of them are synths, and nobody remembers it being any different. I found evidence this had already happened. A small settlement called Grey Garden, a place I had traded with for years. The file showed a complete replacement operation in 2278. Every single resident extracted and replaced after one of them discovered their mayor was a synth. The file notes were casual, almost bored. Complete settlement integration successful, no complications. Recommend Grey Garden protocol for future exposure containment. How many times had this happened? How many settlements across the Commonwealth were now entirely populated by synths, everyone believing they were real people living real lives, while the actual people who built those communities were turned into super mutants or worse? The paranoia everyone felt about the Institute was not paranoia. It was justified terror that we had somehow underestimated. I discovered terminals showing the Institute had memory banks from people I knew personally, other traders I had worked with for decades, the family who ran the general store in Diamond City, a caravan guard I had hired 100 times. All of them had been taken at some point, their memories extracted. Some were marked as terminated post-extraction. Others showed FEV disposal like me. A few were marked retained for extended study. That last category terrified me. What did retained for extended study mean? I found a subdirectory and immediately wished I had not. Live subjects kept in suspended animation, their brains wired to machines, continuously generating new memories in simulated environments. The Institute was running virtual reality scenarios on kidnapped people, making them live through artificial experiences just to see how human consciousness responded to different stimuli. One file detailed a subject who had been kept in simulation for 6 years. 6 years of artificial experiences pumped into their brain while their body floated in a tank somewhere deep in the institute. What would be left of a person after that? Would they even know what was real anymore? The file noted that the subject had significant degradation of baseline personality, but was still producing valuable emotional response data. I found my daughter's file. She was not listed as extracted, not yet, but she was marked as secondary priority asset daughter of memory bank 7834, projected extraction date 2288. Rationale: second generation Commonwealth trader knowledge established family dynamics with existing synth asset V9 43 and synthetic replacement of subject 7834. They were planning to take Sarah in 2 years. They would extract everything she knew, everything she felt, her memories of growing up with a synth grandfather and synth father who both believed they were real. Then, they would turn her into a super mutant or keep her in suspended simulation or simply terminate her, and they would replace her with another synth who would seamlessly integrate into the network of artificial people spreading through the Commonwealth. But here is what made it worse. The synth pretending to be me would not know Sarah was replaced. He had my memories, my love for her, and he would accept the replacement as the real Sarah because he was not designed to question the Institute. He would raise a synth daughter using memories of raising a human daughter, and neither of them would know the truth. The Institute would have successfully erased the entire Finch family and replaced us with perfect copies. I thought about stopping it, about warning Sarah somehow, but how do you explain to a 16-year-old girl that her father is a super mutant hiding in the ruins? Her grandfather was replaced 20 years ago, and she is scheduled to be kidnapped and replaced in 2 years? She would think I was insane. The synth version of me would comfort her, tell her that super mutants are dangerous and unreliable. She would believe him because he was a perfect copy of the father she trusted. The predictive modeling files showed me how this scenario would play out. I had found projections of multiple futures based on different variables. In every simulation where I revealed the truth to Sarah, it ended with me being killed by Diamond City Security or Brotherhood of Steel Soldiers, and Sarah being traumatized but ultimately trusting her synth father's explanation that a delusional super mutant had fixated on our family. The Institute's models predicted human behavior with terrifying accuracy because they had stolen so many minds to build those models. I found files showing how they selected subjects for extraction. They monitored the Commonwealth through a network they called Watchers. These were synths programmed for pure observation, blending into settlements and reporting back on everyone's behavior, knowledge, and potential value. Every conversation in every bar, every trade negotiation, every skill someone demonstrated, all being recorded and analyzed. When someone showed enough valuable knowledge or strategic positioning, they got added to the extraction list. The Watchers were everywhere. The file showed active observation posts in Diamond City, Good Neighbor, Bunker Hill, every major settlement. Even small farming communities had at least one watcher. The Commonwealth was not free. We were all living in an open-air prison where the guards looked exactly like us, and we had no idea we were being studied every moment of our lives. But I found something even the Institute had not fully anticipated. The F5 disposal protocol was creating an unexpected problem. Super mutants like me, who retained fragments of their human memories, were not supposed to exist. The files showed confusion among the scientists. Subject 7834 shows abnormal memory retention post-transformation. Recommend additional study. Multiple FEV disposal subjects demonstrating higher cognitive function than predicted models suggest. They had accidentally created a population of super mutants who remembered being human. We were their mistake, walking around the Commonwealth as living evidence of their crimes. I was not alone. The files suggested there might be dozens of us, maybe more, super mutants who carried fragments of stolen lives, unable to return to our families, unable to prove what had been done to us. I met 3 others over the following months, never learned their human names because they had mostly forgotten them, but each one had flashes of memory. One remembered being a farmer, another remembered teaching children, the third remembered being a soldier. We did not talk much because super mutant vocal cords make complex speech difficult, but we recognized something in each other, a shared trauma that set us apart from the mindless ones. Here is what you need to understand. Every super mutant terrorizing the Commonwealth, everyone gunned down by settlers or Brotherhood soldiers, was once a person. They were kidnapped by the Institute, experimented on, and thrown away like garbage. The Institute created the super mutant problem deliberately. They needed test subjects for their FEVE research, and discarding the results on the surface served dual purposes. It got rid of evidence, and it kept the Commonwealth weak and divided. A weak Commonwealth cannot organize against the Institute. People too busy fighting super mutants and raiders cannot investigate disappearances or question whether their neighbors are who they claim to be. The Institute's experiments create the chaos that protects the Institute's secrecy. It is perfect circular logic, and we are all trapped in it. I found evidence of their future plans in a file marked Phase 4, Commonwealth Integration. Once they achieved sufficient infiltration of leadership positions, once their predictive models reached the desired accuracy threshold, they planned to reveal themselves, not as the boogeyman hiding underground, but as the saviors of the Commonwealth. They would offer technology, protection, advancement, and the synth leaders they had positioned everywhere would enthusiastically support integration. The Commonwealth would voluntarily submit to Institute control, never knowing that the people recommending this course of action were artificial constructs programmed to guide humanity towards servitude. It was brilliant and horrifying. No invasion, no obvious takeover, just a slow replacement of free will with synthetic compliance. But the Institute made one critical error in their planning. They assumed discarded subjects like me would either die quickly or become mindlessly violent. They did not account for the possibility that some of us would retain enough humanity to understand what had been done. They certainly did not predict that one of us would break back into their facility and access their entire archive. I copied everything I could onto holotapes, thousands of files showing the full scope of their operation, every extraction record, every replacement, every memory trade, every future plan. I hid those holotapes in locations across the Commonwealth, places only someone with my trading knowledge would think to look. If the synth, pretending to be me, ever questioned his reality, if he ever wondered why certain memories felt wrong, he might find those holotapes. My memories could help him understand the truth. Do you think people can truly own their memories when those same memories can be extracted, copied, and sold? Or does the ability to steal consciousness mean that identity itself is just another resource to be exploited? Think about everyone you know. How would you prove they are real if someone claimed they were a synth programmed with stolen memories? I found one last file before I had to flee the Institute facility. It was marked Success Rate Analysis Memory Bank Integration. The data showed that 94% of synth replacements were never discovered. People lived their entire lives next to perfect copies of their loved ones and never knew the difference. The remaining 6% were mostly caught due to random chance or catastrophic malfunction, not because people were good at detecting replacements. We are not good at knowing who is real. We trust familiar faces, familiar mannerisms, familiar voices. The Institute exploited that trust by making their synths so perfect that even family members could not tell the difference. They weaponized our love and trust against us, turning every relationship into potential deception. I left the Institute that night knowing I could never go back. The security systems had logged my intrusion by then. Alarms were sounding in sections I had already escaped from, but I had what I needed: the truth, documented and hidden across the Commonwealth in places only Jackson Finch would know to look. Maybe someday, someone would find those holotapes and understand what the Institute really was. Walking through the Commonwealth as a super mutant changed how I saw everything. Every settlement I passed, I wondered how many synths were living there. Every trader I observed from a distance might have been a replacement. Every family could have artificial members and nobody would ever know. The Institute had not just infiltrated the Commonwealth, they had redefined what it meant to be human in this world. I made my way to an old supply cache I had maintained for years, hidden in the basement of a collapsed building near Lexington. The synth pretending to be me would not know about this place because I established it after my last memory update with Sarah. It was one of the few secrets I had left. Inside, I found supplies I had stored, old holotapes of Sarah when she was younger, things I had saved before my wife died. Listening to those holotapes destroyed me. Sarah's voice at age 6, telling me about finding an intact teddy bear in some ruins. My own voice, genuinely my voice, not a synth recreation, telling her we would clean it up and she could keep it. My wife laughing in the background, saying I spoiled Sarah too much. Normal family moments from before the Institute ripped my life apart. I played them over and over, trying to hold on to the memories before the thief erased them completely. But each time I played those tapes, I felt my human memories slipping further away. The super mutant transformation was not instant, it was gradual, progressive, a slow drowning of your human consciousness under waves of mutation and rage. I could feel Jackson Finch dying by inches, replaced by something that only remembered being human the way you might remember a dream after waking. Distant, fuzzy, slipping away with each passing day. I started carving reminders into my own flesh, deep cuts that would scar even on super mutant skin. Sarah on my left arm, Remember on my right. Institute lies across my chest. When the fog of mutation became too thick, when I forgot why I was hiding instead of hunting, I would look at those scars and something would click. Not full memory, but enough to keep me from becoming completely lost. Other super mutants found my cache once, 3 of them, typical mindless brutes looking for anything to destroy or eat. They saw me, another super mutant, and for a moment we just stared at each other. Then one of them spoke. Not well, the words slurred and broken, but unmistakable. Brother, remember something before. He touched his head, frustrated, trying to find words that the Effie had stolen. The other 2 just watched, confused by behavior that did not fit their simple programming of violence. I realized these 3 were also Institute discards, failed experiments who retained just enough humanity to be confused by their own existence, but not enough to understand what had happened to them. We were all broken together, victims of the same crime, unable to help each other or even properly communicate our shared trauma. After a few minutes of failed attempts at conversation, they wandered off, but I never forgot the look in that one's eyes, the desperate need to remember something, anything about who they used to be. Months passed. I watched Bunker Hill from a distance whenever I could safely get close, watched the synth version of me continue living my life. He was a good father to Sarah, better than I had been, honestly. He never got drunk and moody like I used to after thinking about my dead wife. Never snapped at Sarah when stress from dangerous trading runs made me irritable. The Institute had edited out my flaws, kept only the good parts. Sarah was probably happier with the replacement than she had been with the real me. That thought hurt worse than the thief transformation. I had been replaced by an improved version of myself, and my daughter deserved that improvement. What right did I have to disrupt her life with the truth? To tell her that her loving father was actually a machine and her real father was a monster hiding in ruins? The kindest thing I could do was stay away and let her believe the comfortable lie. But then I saw the Institute mobilize for her extraction. The year 2288 arrived right on schedule. I was watching from my usual position in the ruins when I saw the telltale signs. Synth infiltrators moving into position around Bunker Hill. The same patterns I had seen in the Institute's operational files. They were coming for Sarah, and they were doing it soon. I had a choice: stay hidden and let it happen, preserving whatever peaceful illusion Sarah had left, or intervene and reveal everything, destroying her world but possibly saving her life. Every instinct I had left, human and super mutant both, screamed at me to protect my daughter. But how could I protect her when approaching her would make me look like the threat? The night they came for her, I was ready. I had positioned myself in the route their extraction team would use based on the operational protocols I had memorized. 3 synths, moving quietly through back alleys toward Bunker Hill, professional, efficient, following the exact same playbook they had used on me. I hit them hard and fast, using super mutant strength combined with human tactical knowledge they did not expect. The fight was brutal. Synths are tough, programmed for combat, equipped with institute weapons. But I had rage and desperation and the element of surprise. I tore through them like they were made of paper, scattering their remains across the alley. But the noise attracted attention. Diamond City security, Brotherhood patrols, everyone in the area converged on the sound of combat. I ran, not toward Sarah, that would have made things worse. I ran toward the old radio tower on the outskirts of the Commonwealth, a place I had discovered during my wandering. From there, I could broadcast a message on emergency frequencies. I could tell everyone the truth about the Institute, about the replacements, about what they did to people. The holotapes I had hidden would serve as proof for anyone who bothered to look. But as I prepared to broadcast, I realized something that stopped me. If I revealed the truth, if I told the Commonwealth that the Institute was replacing people with synth copies, what would happen? Mass paranoia. People turning on each other, every settlement tearing itself apart as neighbors accused neighbors of being synths, families destroyed, friends killed. The Institute would win through chaos even if their infiltration program was exposed, and Sarah would learn that both her father and grandfather were synths. Her entire life would be revealed as a lie. Every memory she cherished would become suspect. Every moment of love from her family would be recontextualized as programming. I would destroy her trying to save her. The Institute had set up a perfect trap. The truth was as destructive as the lie. So I made a different choice. I went back to Bunker Hill one last time, not to reveal myself, but to leave something for Sarah. I waited until the synth version of me left on a trading run, then snuck into our old quarters. I left a holotape hidden in a place only Sarah would find. Inside the stuffed bear she had cherished since she was 6 years old. The same bear from that old recording I had listened to in my cache. The message was simple. Sarah, if you are listening to this, then you have started to suspect something is wrong. Trust your instincts. There are holotapes hidden throughout the Commonwealth with evidence you need to see. The first is in the collapsed building near Lexington, basement level, behind the third support beam from the east wall. What you do with that information is your choice. I love you. I have always loved you. Even now, even like this, I love you. Your real father, Jackson Finch. I did not tell her I was a super mutant. I did not tell her the synth raising her was not real. I just gave her a thread to pull if she ever needed it. If she stayed happy with her synth family, the message would stay hidden. But if she ever felt something was wrong, if the Institute's programming slipped, if she started asking questions, she would have a path to the truth. That was 3 months ago. I have been wandering the Commonwealth ever since, avoiding settlements, fighting off the super mutant rage that gets stronger every day. I can feel Jackson Finch disappearing. Soon, there will be nothing left but the monster the Institute created. But before that happens, I needed to tell this story. I needed someone to know what the Institute really does. They do not just replace people. They steal souls. They take everything that makes you human, your memories, your personality, your relationships, your identity, and they turn it into data. You become information to be stored, copied, sold, and distributed. The real you gets discarded like trash while a perfect copy lives your life better than you ever did. Every super mutant you kill in the Commonwealth, remember that they used to be someone. They had families, jobs, dreams, fears. The Institute stole all of that and left behind rage and confusion. We are not monsters by choice. We are victims who got turned into weapons against the very people we used to live among. Every person you meet might be a synth programmed with someone else's stolen memories. Every leader, every friend, every family member could be an institute plant, and you would never know unless their programming glitched. The Commonwealth is not free. It is a laboratory where the Institute runs experiments on an entire population that does not even know it is being studied. If Sarah finds this recording, if she follows the breadcrumbs to the hidden holotapes, she will learn the truth. She will have to decide whether to keep living the comfortable lie or to fight against the Institute knowing she might lose everything. I do not know what choice she will make, but at least it will be her choice, made with full knowledge. That is more than most people in the Commonwealth get. If this confession meant something to you, leave a like. It is the only way I know you liked the video. I am forgetting more every day now. Sarah's face is getting blurry. My wife's name takes longer to remember. Soon, I will just be another mindless super mutant, and Jackson Finch will only exist as data in Institute computers and programming in synth replacements. But this recording will remain. Someone will find it. Someone will know what happened. The Institute calls us memory banks, like we are storage devices instead of people. But memories are not just data. They are the essence of who we are. Every joy and pain that shaped us into ourselves. When they steal our memories, they do not just copy information. They commit murder and replace us with forgeries that nobody can detect. I do not know how to stop them. I do not know if they can be stopped. Their infiltration is too deep, their technology too advanced, their understanding of human behavior too complete. But I know the truth now, and I have spread that truth where it can be found. Maybe that is enough. Maybe one person finding those holotapes will make a difference. The super mutant rage is getting hard to control. I need to go deeper into the wasteland, away from settlements, before I become dangerous, before I forget why I should not hurt people, before Jackson Finch dies completely and only the monster remains. But I will die knowing I tried to warn people. I tried to save my daughter. I tried to leave behind evidence of what the Institute does. That is more than most of their victims get. Most people who get taken never get a chance to tell their story. They just disappear, and synths take their place, and nobody ever knows the difference. Remember this, the Institute is building a library of human consciousness, and we are the books they keep burning after they finish reading. Thousands of us, our entire lives extracted and stored, our bodies discarded, our identities scattered across multiple synth units, our families left with perfect copies that love them using our stolen emotions. This is what the Institute means when they talk about the future of humanity. Not the elevation of human consciousness, but the complete digitization of it. The replacement of messy, unpredictable, mortal humans with clean, controllable, eternal synths. They are not trying to help humanity survive. They are trying to make humanity obsolete. I am Jackson Finch, Memory Bank, 7834, Commonwealth Trader, Father, Human Being. The Institute took everything from me except this final testimony. If you are listening to this, be careful who you trust. Question what you remember. Pay attention to the people around you. And if someone you love starts acting just a little too perfect, starts knowing things they should not know, starts lacking the small flaws that made them human, start asking questions. The truth is hidden in collapsed buildings and forgotten caches across the Commonwealth. Look for the places a trader would hide valuable goods. Look for the holotapes marked with my designation. They contain everything you need to know about what the Institute is really doing. And if you see a super mutant that seems different from the others, one that avoids settlements but does not attack on sight, one with scars carved into its skin like desperate reminders, that might be me, or it might be one of the others like me, victims trying to hold on to fading humanity. Do not shoot on sight. We are not your enemy. The Institute is your enemy, and they look exactly like the people you trust most. I am running out of time. The fog is closing in. Jackson Finch is almost gone, but this recording will survive. Find it, share it. Remember that every person has value beyond the data they contain. We are not memory banks. We are human beings, and that means something even in this broken world. This is my confession, my warning, my final testimony. The Institute's living memory banks are not banks at all. They are mass graves of stolen consciousness, and the Commonwealth is built on thousands of forgotten victims who nobody even knows are gone. Remember us. Remember that we were real, and stop them before everyone you know becomes just another number in their archive, just another source of data, to be extracted and exploited and erased. This is Jackson Finch signing off. If Sarah ever hears this, I am sorry I could not be there for you. I am sorry you had to learn the truth this way. But you deserve to know. Everyone deserves to know. The Institute is watching. They are always watching, and they are already planning their next extraction.